Hello and welcome. Today's topic, Central Bank Digital Currencies, the pros and the cons. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate that you are taking your time and joining me today to talk about this kind of new form of money. But before we start, let me know if you can see and hear me loud and clear, just to make sure that on my end, all the tech is working and you have the best experience. So if you're watching this, give the video a like, or even better, let me know in the comments, if you can see and hear me loud and clear, where you're from, what industry you're in. And I'm happy for every hello. Generally speaking, usually on YouTube, you have the best experience just from a technology standpoint. But that being said, let's jump right into it. Let me open my slides here. Because, as the title of the video of the live stream says, today I want to talk a little bit about central bank digital currencies. I think over the last months we saw some developments there, and I think it makes sense to maybe have a little more in-depth look about the whole about this new technology or new form of money, however you want to call it. So central bank digital currencies, pros and cons. That's the topic of this talk. And I want to structure it in the following way. I want to talk about three different things. First of all, I want to talk about digital currency itself, meaning let's talk a little bit about digital currencies. What are digital currencies, and explain them a little bit. Then step number two, I want to really analyze them from different perspectives, on different layers, and look at the pros and cons. And then finally, step number three, I want to give a conclusion and of course my personal opinion and my thoughts on the whole topic. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, any opinion, you disagree, you agree, whatever it is, let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this as a replay, let me know in the comment section, and then I will try to answer it either live during the chat or maybe later on in the comments. All right, so first of all, what is a digital currency? I think that's important to understand before we actually talk about central bank digital currency, because I think once we understand what a digital currency is, it's not so hard to understand what a central bank digital currency is, or a CBDC. So when we look at Wikipedia, what they say about digital currencies, we can read the following. A digital currency, digital money, electronic money, or electronic currency is any currency, money, or money-like asset that is primarily managed, stored, or exchanged on digital computers, systems, especially over the internet. And I think that's a very broad but very specific explanation what a digital currency actually is at the end of the day. So no matter if you want to call it digital money, electronic cash, it's at the end of the day all the same. And if you follow me for a while, you know that I try to explain things as easy and simple and as tangible as possible. So my question to you is, have you ever played a video game in your life, or maybe even multiple video games? So when you have played a video game in your life, or maybe your children or younger generation, you probably had some form of currency in there. Maybe, I don't know, a racing game, and when you run the race, then you get some money to improve car parts, or an RPG, and then you can improve your character, buy better equipment and whatnot. And of course, a lot of these mobile games are even that far that you can pay with real money to improve your character, to grow your farm faster, or whatever it might be. And when we look just at that industry, for example, just virtual items in a virtual worlds, like that kind of outfit costs $500, and the whole industry is apparently 50 billion US industry, then I think we get a feeling for it that there are already digital currencies in use on a very big scale, but primarily in the gaming environment, in the gaming world. And I think that's a very good example to transfer that then later on to what is happening now to the real world with the central bank digital currencies. And there are really theses and papers written about these kind of games. For example, when we pick a game like EVE Online, one of these huge, massive online multiplayer games, or whatever the specific name is for them. And they have complete economies. So they publish monthly report about the key industries and the key commodities and whatnot, how they performed. They have imports and exports reports, salaries, taxes, fees for the different services and products that you have in these worlds. You have to pay taxes and whatnot. You have governments. So you have basically everything that you have in the real world. We already have in these gaming environments, and even money supply and whatnot. And that makes it great for a lot of scholars and people and economists that are interested in that kind of world to have that kind of sandbox and to see what is actually happening when we have a completely digital economy, and in that case, a completely digital currency. And I think now it's a little better or a little easier maybe to understand what a central bank digital currency is, because at the end of the day, it's nothing else than instead of some game developer or some software engineer or gaming producer has their own, they have their own currency in their own little world. Just have the central bank that is producing their digital money and tries to use that as a legal tender. And that brings us to the main requirement or the main problem at the end of the day for every currency. And that's adoption, because as we see, no matter if we're talking about a currency in a digital world, in a gaming environment, or in the real world, the main criteria is, are people actually using it in the real world to buy for or to pay for products and services? So how is the adoption of a specific currency? And even if we look at the classic cash or money system that we have today, there are countries where the trust of the people in the local currency is so low that they, for example, use a reserve currency or an alternative currency like the US dollar as an official payment system, because people have more trust in that currency, and the adoption is higher than with the local currency. So adoption and trust in that case are kind of going hand in hand, and that's one of the aspects that we will talk about, or we'll have a closer look in a second. But I want to emphasize that point really hard. The question if something works as a currency or not is 90% answered by, okay, are people using it? Is there an adoption? And I think when we progress a little bit during this talk, during the slides, we will see why. So let's analyze the central bank digital currency a little bit, look at the pros and the cons, and also talk about the different market participants. Of course, there are a lot of facets, a lot of different criteria we can actually use to rank or analyze or rate or whatever word you want to use the central bank digital currency, and feel free to use your own criteria. I try to boil it down to as few as possible. So one is usability, meaning is it actually usable in the day-to-day environment, and how easy is it? For example, if we talk about gold is probably the longest or the oldest and most trusted currency that we have on the gold on the planet. That is why, still today, a lot of central banks has that as a reserve, or a lot of people have that as an asset, as a store of value, because people trust it. But it's not very usable. It's not very practical to have a gold bar or something in your pocket and to pay with that, actually. So usability is just, again, from the adoption perspective, one of the major questions. Okay, how easy is it for people to actually use it in their day-to-day life? Then, of course, cost. How expensive is it for every market participant, for the government or the central bank to actually create it, produce it, maintain it, and whatnot? For the merchants, the transaction fees that they have to pay, and of course for the end consumer, if they have to pay any fees to actually use that form of money. Security, of course, also again a big question mark when it comes to trust, and then to adoption, meaning how secure is that kind of digital money? I cannot touch it. How easy can it be hacked? How easy can it be stolen when, I don't know, a hacker scams me out of my password, or if the, I don't know, central bank manager runs away with all the money? How secure, how safe is it at the end of the day? And then, of course, maybe the most important one, what about control? So meaning how much control do you have over your own money, and to what extent is it actually your own money anymore? How much control does the government have, or central bank, and so on. And as you realize, I oversimplify a lot when I say government or central bank. I mean, that's, at least in that context, kind of interchangeable. All right, so we have also very simplified free market participants with the government, with the merchants that it actually use, and then we have the consumer at the end of the day, at the end user, if you want to. So when we look at usability, especially when we look at the Caribbean, for example, and how easy it is to pay online, to pay mobile and whatnot, I think for every market participant, for the government, for the merchants, for the consumer, it will be probably easier to do business, to pay for stuff and whatnot. That will be probably, generally speaking, easier than it is right now. But as far as I can see, and what I found out through my own research, again, correct me if I'm wrong or if I may be missing something, but that improvement is primarily because we're just coming from a very low level. As you probably know by yourself, it's not really easy to do business payments, whatnot, inside a Caribbean country, let alone cross-border payments. So, but generally speaking, when we just talking about payments inside a country, I think the usability compared to what we have right now in a lot of Caribbean countries will probably improve for every participant in that case. All right. Second, important aspect, cost. I think for the government, it will be probably a little cheaper than right now. You don't have to print physical money. Maybe it's easier to monitor. We have some scaling effects there. It's easier to track tax payments and whatnot. I think from government perspective, you'll probably save money, and merchants too. They will probably also save some money in terms of lower transaction fees that they have to pay to the merchants, to the banks, and everybody. So I think it will be a little cost saving for everybody involved behind the curtain at the back end, if you want to. But I think for the consumer, at the end of the day, won't change anything dramatically. I think the prices that you pay in the supermarkets and whatnot will be the same. Maybe your banking fees will go down a little, but that might be the maximum. Overall, you will probably have the same cost situation. With a digital currency than we have right now with the cash system or semi-digital system that we have right now. I don't know how to call it. Then security. So when I talk about security, I mean every aspect of security, cybersecurity. How easy can it be stolen? How easy can it be hacked? How easy can it be go offline and don't work anymore? All these kind of aspects. Again, we could probably fill a complete talk with just talking about the different aspects here. But just because of the nature of the system, meaning we're talking about a centralized system, because all the power, all the decision-making power is focused at one point. It's an inherent higher risk than any other form of kind of decentralized system that we are seeing right now. So on any level, government, merchant, and then consumer level, I think we see a higher risk. I think we are seeing a lower security levels in general. Again, it has nothing to do with any specific country or implementation, just because of the nature of the system here. Damien has a question about costs, so I think that probably works well here. So I will bring it up right now. Again, if you have any question, everybody watching, put it in the chat, put it in the comment section. I will try to answer it right now. So Damien Miller says, great point, Simon. Regarding the costs involved, here's my question. If there are no fees to do transactions, how will banks make money at the retail level? I don't know. I think they will probably think about some creative way to still make money. Again, at the end of the day, the main source of revenue or income traditionally of a bank is with the duration transformation, meaning you take in short-term money and lend it out as a credit on a long-term basis, and you basically take in the difference in the interest rates, or another kind of model where you try to hide the cost. For example, you maybe know a lot of these free brokers, not in Jamaica, but for example in the US or Europe, where they market with you don't have any broker fees to do transactions. Of course, there are always costs, but for example, you don't have broker fees immediately, but they make their money through the spread, meaning the buy or the difference between the buying and selling price. I think there will still be ways for banks or for anybody involved to do transactions. And I think it will be also a question of the kind of service level. For example, if you offer specific services that people actually value, I think then banks will also, or any kind of business will have the option or the opportunity to make money. I think right now, why most banks are able to make money is because customers are forced to use them, because we literally have no other option to do business, to do payments and whatnot. I think with the current developments, fintech, DeFi, or central bank digital currencies, I think we see a lot of change there and a lot of power shift. So therefore, I think it's important to keep up to date and make sure that no matter how you involved private business, or maybe you are working in the industry, that you keep yourself up to date. But I think generally speaking, the business models of a lot of banks have to change in the future. The fee structures will have to change in the future, but it will be still the old question: what is the value that you are going to provide to your customer as a bank, and are people willing to pay for that? I think that's what it comes down to, and we will see. Ask me 12 months down the line maybe I know more then. I think when we talk about Jamaica, I think they announced that at the end of this year, meaning at the end of 2022, they will allow external wallet providers to integrate or whatnot. But again, I'm not up to date and not involved in every detail of this process. But I hope that answers your question so far. All right, so we talked about cost, we talked about security. And yeah, again, we can dive deeper into security issues and with all the problems that come with the actual implementation and whatnot. And if governments or public agencies are actually able or have a good track record in doing that. But yeah, I think that's another topic. I would maybe dive too deep into that. All right, let's talk about one of the most at least from my perspective, maybe most important things when we talk about money, when we talk about finance in general, when we talk about banking, and that's control, because money at the end of the day is a form of control, and the more money someone has, the powerful that person is, or that institution when we're talking about the government. But as you know, there is no thing as a government, they are just people. So I think the central bank digital currency gives the government immense power and control over the money, basically, of their citizens. And I will talk about that a little more in a minute. But I think there's almost nothing comparable to that. Again, think back at the beginning of my talk when I used that video game example, meaning basically every video game has some form of currency, some form of reward system, where you then can improve your character, buy new stuff, trade, and whatnot. And the people that control that currency are the game developers, the software engineers in the background. They can hit a button, give you 1 million more, or hit another button and remove all the money. And therefore have full control over the finance and monetary system. Therefore, it takes away control from the merchants, from the banks, from everybody involved, and also from the consumer. So when we look at the power dynamic, how that shifts, I think it's a massive shift. Maybe one of the reasons why countries like China and so on are very interested in implementing this kind of money or system. All right, we have another question. Christopher is asking on LinkedIn. Hi, Simon. This is Chris from Ask How. I hope I pronounced that correct. Or Howie? I don't know. How will the underserved be able to top up central bank digital currency, especially when their source is in remittance? Good question. I will talk about that a little later on when I talk about alternatives or solutions, because I don't want to be only the person that is complaining or saying, that's not working, that's a problem and whatnot. But before I talk a little more about that later on, to make it short, I think that's nothing where the unbanked will be helped with, because I think, let's talk about Jamaica and probably most Caribbean countries. We have a banking rate of about, let's say 50%, meaning only 50% of the population actually have a bank account. So I think from my perspective, it should be a goal to make sure, let's make sure everybody first gets a normal bank account or a bank account at all before we invest time and resources in some fancy new technology that will or will not work. But again, I will talk about that in a minute. But generally speaking, I don't see any big benefit for unbanked people right now. Again, when we just talk about usability, it might be a little bit easier, although you still have all the KYC requirements and so on. So to get an account, to get a wallet, will still be the same problem. You need some form of ID and all the problems, and I don't know, your pastor to get to open a bank account. And I mean that's why I kind of do this talk or these live streams, these conversations, to figure out what is actually the benefit, what are the risks, what are the pros and cons, because I haven't really found that much benefit, or where the end consumer or the normal people actually benefit from that at the end of the day. But yeah, good question, and I'm sure we'll dive a little bit deeper into that in a minute. I hope that answered your questions or your question so far, nonetheless. So yeah, what did I say? Control. Yeah, again, because it's a centralized system now, a central currency. Yeah, the central bank controls everything, and again can now press a button and do whatever they want with that money. So yeah, think for yourself how much you trust your government or whoever will be in control of potentially all your life savings. So I tried to bring it back on one slide here. I hope you can see that. So again, we have all three market participants. We have the government, we have the merchants, meaning the merchants, the vendors, the banks, so everybody in between, and the end consumer. Then again, we can have a look from multiple angles on the problem or on the situation. I picked these four: usability, cost, security, and control. So when we look at usability, I think it will probably, hopefully, be easier to do business, to pay for stuff than with the current system. But again, just because we are coming from such a low level, nothing from a systemic standpoint that a central bank digital currency cannot be done with the current system, meaning when you are in Europe, when you are in the US, you pay basically instantly with your mobile banking, with your PayPal, Venmo, whatever you are using and whatever is popping up left and right. But compared to what we're having, especially in the Caribbean right now, I think usability will improve for every participant. Then we have the cost factor. I think also, just because it's better or more digital technology, we will probably see cost savings on the government level, on the merchant level, because when we can probably remove a lot of paperwork, we can make processes more efficient. We don't have to print that much paper money, or technically it's cotton, anymore than before. But for the end consumer, there will be probably not such a big change than right now, because again, right now you don't pay any fees or whatnot. When you pay with cash, you maybe have some banking fees, but that's about it. But besides that, I think we will not see a big change in the cost structure for the end consumer. From a security standpoint, again, I'm skeptical. I think just because of the centralized nature of the system makes it more vulnerable for attacks, for mistakes, for bugs and whatnot on every level. So I think that's a kind of red flag for me here. And then when we look at control, meaning who controls your money, are you actually still owning your own money? Then we see, at least from my opinion, and I'm very interested in yours, that the power dynamic shifts completely, meaning now the government or the central bank has complete power, complete control on every level over your money, over the population's money. So, and I think what is very interesting, or I think we should keep in mind, another source that you might want to check out is from, for example, from last year, the Telegraph. And again, governments all over the world are discussing not only central bank digital currencies, but also crypto, blockchain, and whatnot. Again, we are living in interesting times. So here we see from the Telegraph, Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. They say digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible. I read it because I'm not sure if you can actually see it on your screen. From Tim Wallace in June 2021, the Bank of England has called on ministers to decide whether a central bank digital currency should be programmable, ultimately giving the issuer control over how it is spent by the recipient. Tom Mutton, a director at the Bank of England, said during a conference on Monday that programming could become a key feature of any future cash central bank digital currency, in which the money would be programmed to be released only when something happened. He said, you could introduce programmability. What happens if one of the participants in a transaction puts a restriction on the future use of the money? There could be some socially beneficial outcomes from that, preventing activity which is seen to be socially harmful in some way. No problem with that. But at the same time, it could be a restriction on people's freedoms. So yeah, what does it mean? I think the first paragraph kind of puts it, digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible, meaning the government decides what is okay, what you can buy or not, or your employer or whatnot. All right. And I know you might think, no, that's negative talk or too pessimistic or whatnot. I will just want to show you a few events that happened in the last 6 months that kind of falls maybe in that category. Because you might think, they would never touch your money, right? I mean, you live in a safe country, you trust your politicians 100%, they are not corrupt, they have never do something wrong, they always put your interest first before theirs. Right? We know that would be a secret, basically. So as we know, a lot of Caribbeans have probably family members in Canada or in the UK. Therefore, I'm picking these examples. So you heard of the protests of the truckers in Canada because they were not, or they didn't like some of the things the government did. And they protested, and you can see Canadian banks restrict funds to trucker protest groups, which means they couldn't access their money, they hadn't access to their bank accounts anymore, they couldn't buy food, couldn't pay their rent, anything. And not only that, but everybody that was affiliated with them or sent them money or supported them in any way or form basically could also be affected by these freezing of their assets. So just to formulate it, this year, in 2022, it happened that in a Western democracy, the government froze assets, money, bank accounts of a certain group of people because they didn't like what they do. They didn't like that they protest non-violently, by the way. Then, something right now on a way bigger scale. The conflict in the Ukraine with Russia, the US and the European Union agreed to cut Russian banks out of the vital SWIFT financial system as part of latest sanctions. Another example, just to show you how powerful finances or the financial system, generally speaking, is, and also that it is a little harder right now because a lot of people, a lot of banks, a lot of players have to come together to actually affect someone else. And of course, that will be way easier for a government to cut someone out of the financial system when we have a digital currency or a central bank digital currency. If you are living in Russia right now, if you're a normal Russian, or if you are a business person that does business right now, if you're McDonald's in Russia right now, your assets or potentially will get seized by Russia. A lot of your money lost, all of your wealth. You can't buy anything outside of Russia with your rubles and whatnot. So again, another example of what can happen from one month to another. And believe me, neither the Ukrainians or the Russians actually, majority of them didn't expect that to happen and to be affected in that scale. So now you might be thinking, Simon, but I'm neither a Canadian trucker, nor I'm anti-vaxxer, nor Russian, nor a criminal. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Okay. I want to read this quote, or I think it's a poem from Martin Niemöller, a German pastor that lived through the German Nazi regime, basically. So, and here's what he said. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And what I want to show you with that is it doesn't really matter if you agree with the people that get sanctioned or that suffer from these consequences. You always have to think, okay, what is the worst case scenario, at least in my perspective? Again, even if you think that the current politicians or people in power, whoever controls your money at the end of the day, even if you think they are sacred and they always will put your interests before theirs, and they're basically Jesus, all right? Even if you think that, they will not be always in power. There will be other people, and you don't know if you can trust them or if they will not misuse that power. And there's that old saying, absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Imagine just the amount of power that you have when hey, I have basically complete control over the money of my citizen. Because cash, you at least, I don't know, you can hide it outside the country, you can dig it or hide it inside a hole or whatever. All not perfect solutions. But again, nothing compared to the power that you're giving a government or a central bank with a central bank digital currency. At least in my opinion. Again, I'm open to learn. Correct me where I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing things a little bit too negative. But here comes my conclusion. Again, I think early on we looked at the benefits, the positive things for all participants, and also the risks. And for me, really, it comes down to the question: are we really willing to risk so much of our fundamental rights and control of our lives just to potentially save a little money? Because that was the major benefit that I could find. Yeah, maybe everything gets a little cheaper in terms of transaction costs, transaction fees, and whatnot. But that's it. I couldn't really find any other significant benefit. Again, maybe you know something that I don't know. And I personally think that the price we will have to pay for it is too high for what we get for it. So, I think that's pretty much my conclusion. Back to the question, I think also from you, Christopher, what are alternatives, or again, not only complain, but actually find solutions? So again, for me, alternatives, the first step would be improve the existing solutions. There is, especially in the Caribbean, a lot of room, upwards. There's still a lot of things that can be improved. As I said earlier, just make sure that it's easier for people to actually get a bank account. You can improve a lot of processes here and just be more efficient there and get on a proper level. So alternative would be improve the existing solutions, and alternative or option B, and again, I'm not an expert here, maybe change the system fundamentally. When we talk about decentralized finance, or when we talk about blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, and so on, which are basically the complete opposite to a central bank digital currency, where all the control and all the power is, as the name says, centralized and at one point. And on the other hand, a decentralized system with blockchain, where everything is open and transparent, and basically the majority decides what is going to happen, but we only have small pockets of power, and the power and control is distributed. Let me see, is there another slide? No, that's it with my slides. So if you have any questions, thoughts, let me know. Damien says the scenario is almost like creating a dystopia for a digital holocaust. I hope not, but again, it always depends on what we actually want, or what kind of world do you want to live in. Do you want a world, or do you want to live in a world like China, where you have a social credit system, and the government and the state knows everything about you and says what you can buy, what you can basically think, and if you spend the right time with the right people, that the government seems okay. Or do you want to live in a world where you have at least most control over your life, and over your money at the end of the day is a big part of freedom. If you cannot buy your food, or pay your rent, or travel, or whatever, then you basically, kind of, at least financially, enslaved. So again, whenever I dive a little deeper in the topic, central bank digital currency, I can't find any positive thing besides the fact, that I get a little dystopian here when I think what can all go wrong. And I think that's maybe the main problem right now, that most people only focus on the positive sides, or on the benefits. And again, I couldn't really find so much of them. And kind of ignore the risks or the downsides, because you know that as good as I do, there's always a trade-off. There is no perfect solution. There are always pros and cons, and then we have to decide, all right, are the benefits worth the risk or worth the price that we have to pay? And of course, I'm a banker by trade. I'm always look very detailed on risk analysis, and when I look at that, I'm not sure if that would be a bet I would do. So again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm writing too dark of a picture here. Again, I'm open for every correction, any other thought, and maybe I'm missing something. But as far as I can tell, I don't know. Maybe Orwell was right with 1984. I mean, when you look at some things that are happening right now, he was definitely right. I mean, again, I don't want to get too negative here today. We are here to talk about central bank digital currencies. So again, if you have any questions around that, let me know. But generally speaking, you're absolutely right. I mean, look at what we know, how deep the government or the state already is involved in our day-to-day lives, how much tech companies know about us, our behavior, our preferences, and whatnot, just because of smartphones and technology that we carry around with us all the time. That was basically the wet dream of every totalitarian state, that we voluntarily put that kind of spy device in our pocket and carry it around with us all the time. And when you remember back 2013, I think it was 2013 when the NSA scandal broke up, and it was publicly known by then. Okay, also the security and intelligence agencies spying on all the citizens through these devices. It's already here. We might not really see it, and people might not yet misuse it. And that's maybe why I'm a little bit skeptical, or I think, maybe when it comes to money, that should be the red line that we shouldn't cross, and shouldn't give the government or states or politicians or banks or whatnot even more power than they already have. I would rather go the opposite direction, decentralize a little more, diversify the risk, give maybe a little bit more power to the individual back. But that's just my personal opinion. All right, we are 44 minutes in. If you like it so far, I really appreciate if you give the video a like, share it with someone that you might think could also benefit from it. That's usually the best way to show your appreciation, or that it actually is useful for you, and also kind of encourage me a little bit to do these kind of spontaneous live talks or conversations in that format. And of course, if you haven't done so as yet, and if you watch that on LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel also free to head over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And make sure you have that bell notification thing on to get notified whenever I go live or release any other form of content. Okay, I think that's it so far. I think I answered all questions in the chat. Let me have a look. It looks good so far. If you have any other question, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know in the comments what you think. And I hope that we see each other soon, and that we talk to each other soon. And that being said, thanks for joining me today, and I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.